Right, these images have already been on my Google page a day and they've already been shared, so I am going to make this video now before somebody else does. Not really thought about what I was going to say, but it doesn't matter because I've made two videos on Giza as it is, so it's not going to be too detailed. I'm just going to show you some images you may not have seen before, apply a few things, and you can look at these sites yourself and make up your own mind and apply things that I have pointed out to you before. I will actually show you some more images at the end through the Movie Maker, which are actually in this album that's already on my Google page. I will share the rest later. The videos that I've made already on this site are how the pyramids were built. So there's a part 1 and 2. It's the part 1 that you want to watch, and then a video called Forbidden Egypt. So you definitely do want to see those two. There is another one I made later under a different name, and where I got into what I have termed waffle block building, how the Great Pyramid and other sites, other pyramids were built with this waffle block type concrete structure where they interlock into each other, side and top down, okay? And the only way that it could have been done for it to still be standing today, okay? But I don't know the name of it anyway. So this area down here, this image is really old, okay? You can see how this is old, completely smashed and buried. But down here, even this area has been excavated, and this area here looks like it's from the last era type, maybe, you know, the era that Martin Leakey is looking into, because these houses here actually look modern. They look like modern chimneys. You know, everything else will be buried under all this sand and silt. The images I will show you at the end, I will put this one in first, and maybe, you know, and then I will put a close-up on one of these things and show you what they are, okay? So that's from an early, you know, the last era, and this is something else, or this might be, it's hard to say, but that's something else there. It's a lot modern, you can see that. I'm just showing you where we are. So that's Giza Plateau. You can see how much more is buried under this site. I suppose that's the main reason for the video. Concrete production and just how much is there buried at Giza. You know, what can we figure out from the images that we see in front of us, okay? You know, we can only take an educated guess, can't we, from the information we've got that's not been hidden from us. This is the Sphinx Temple. People think that this was built out of huge, massive blocks, literally, you know, like blocks cut from a quarry and dragged. You couldn't do any of that anyway, but they're not. It is literally the pouring of concrete, which is now turned into sand and limestone from being underwater for a long time. No, I'm not getting into that again. But they're not, definitely not blocks, are they? Because you see these areas that look like huge square blocks. They're just areas. If you look at the side of it, it's smooth sand, okay? This will be more like limestone. The lime gets sucked to the outside, doesn't it? And all this is sandstone underneath. It's falling away is what I'm talking about. The reason why it's shaped like this, yeah, is because this will have been where framing, you know, like girders, rebar, some type of framing that this stuff was smothered into or poured into, and that's why it's falling away in a fence like pattern, yeah? They're not blocks, are they? Look at it. That looks like a block there is about 2 inches thick, and then there's all this behind it, okay? This is actually some type of cladding. People think these are huge granite blocks, and they're absolutely not. The next image will prove that to you. I think this is the same again. I think it's some type of, it's obviously not a partition wall, but I think the reason why it splits in this fashion is because, again, it's some type of like cladding that's been smeared onto some type of framing. In this case there's actually bricks behind it, yeah, but there will have had to have been some type of medium, some type of framing to smother this thing onto, and then over time it just cracks in this fashion. And what I mean by that is, that's a close-up on, this is the same area, it's the Sphinx Temple. That is a close-up on what I've just shown you. It's about 4 inches thick, is that, and you've got bricks, like modern day bricks behind it. It is some type of cladding that's been smothered onto a frame like surface that cracks in this way, that's got bricks behind it, right, and that is petrified into what you see now. It's not granite. And the other thing is, how I know that that's an absolute fact, you see the megalithic world going about how these blocks curve and run around the corner, right? They call that machining. The reason why it curves around the corner is because it's been smeared onto this wall, right? And the end of the framing finished there, and it's just cracked there. That's the reason why it runs round the corner. You don't build like that, do you? This is an image I found, this top section, I put this in later. It says no cast and cast, so they're making out that this is limestone cut blocks from a quarry and that this is concrete, right? They're the exact same, right? It's just that these blocks have been, you know, they might be on a certain side of the pyramid which receives more heat, or got hit by a flood or something like that, right? Or, you know, was made by a poorer company of concrete, and their quality, you know, was, well, theirs one far more superior than theirs, okay? Because this is just crumbling away into sandstone, right? You know, I mean, it almost looks like that they used seaside sand, okay, rather than actual sandstone sand. But anyway, it's the exact same thing, right? It's concrete layered in layers, and how we know that is because they line up completely level all the way across. It's been layered, right, poured layer by layer, just like you do today with this. You see this is the beginnings of a skyscraper, huge modern building type structure, and you pour it layer by layer by layer, right? And eventually when this rebar rusts away, it will look like that, and you will think that it was built with blocks, but it wasn't, okay? Yeah, so again, the rebar has rusted away, and that's why you can't fit a human hair between there, right? Because there's no rebar on this section here, you know? It's the vertical sections, right, that have got rebar in it, right? Because you do it layer by layer. So when this dries, you pour this next section, you put your barring down, your rebars down, right? And that's why it touches each level absolutely airtight, and the rebar rusts away from these upper sections, okay? And they line up precisely all the way across, exactly level. You would not be able to do that unless you was using high technology and lasers, modern day technology. You would not be able to have that lining up from one side to the other, right, to within an inch of something like 4 football fields wide, layer by layer. It's concrete. That is something I found. They're trying to make out that it's natural limestone, right? It isn't. You get this stuff on the surface here because this was flooded, wasn't it, in the Great Flood. That's why you get these things, these little, like, you know, sea life on top. You haven't got this inside here because it's concrete. You've got them on the surface. They weren't built with blocks like this, yeah, but what I'm pointing out here, can you see how they are precisely level all the way across from one side to the other to within an inch, because they're built with concrete blocks, these are, okay, but they're all made the exact same size. They're not cut from a quarry, they are literally made one size only, right, and then locked into place. But the Great Pyramid were built with something called waffle block construction, which I will show you shortly. So that's the Sphinx there, what they call the Sphinx. This is, you know, what some people make out is andesite or granite, but when you look at it, look, most of this stuff now in Egypt, right, as it's been exposed over the last few decades, is starting to erode away, right, because it's exposed to the air, which is what I got into. It is going to expose them. They're going to expose themselves from excavating this stuff, right, because it's not, obviously not granite and andesite, because when you look under it, look, it's sandstone. The lime gets sucked to the outside, right, as it's been flooded in deep water under pressure. It forces the lime to the outside and you're left with a sandstone, right. Look at it, it's concrete. I don't care what they say. This stuff here, they say this is granite. I've got into this stuff. Look, I'm going to zoom in on this for you. Again, I found you all the best images I've never shown you before, right? Because I was going to point out a few things I've shown you before, and I thought there's just no point, I ain't doing it. Right, you can see where this surface stuff has fallen away that they're calling granite, and look at it, it's sandstone underneath. This changes to this material in the flood and catastrophe, right? Whatever happened has changed this stuff, like, you know, the wooden statues that were all wood. Well, okay, 90% of them were wood, but they've changed into other materials, haven't they? That's just an image of the Sphinx that they make out was carved out of the actual land, and it wasn't, it was built. This is a, what they are now called, well, they are excavating something called the second Sphinx, right? It's not a Sphinx, it's just the remains of a structure layered, you know, the pouring of concrete layer by layer. You can see it's Giza, right? That's the side of it, so they've excavated it some more and it looks the exact same as the Sphinx. You can see it layer by layer. It's the pouring of concrete. You can see how thick it is inside. It's the remains of a structure. And this is something that they call a quarry, and I know that it's a little bit blurred, but it's important. So this is some site in Egypt that they were, you know, that they were excavating some of these blocks, these limestone blocks from, right? It looks like a quarry, but it's not. Can you see that door plinth? Right, there's, you know, look, you can see where the plinth was above that door. It's about a foot thick, so it's completely hollow inside. This was a window at one time, or a upper level that's collapsed, yeah, just the same as that, but it just looks like something natural, doesn't it? But it's not. That's, you know, those are the blocks I've just pointed you out that look like granite, but they're not. It's just concrete that's changed. These look like giant, huge concrete blocks, but they're not. Again, it's just the pouring of concrete into a rebar meshing, right, that solidifies, because these are obviously the remnants, the imprints of the blocks, which are all about the same size, completely level all the way across. That's just falling down a bit. If you look at these ones, those are there, right? They're not huge blocks lifted into place. It's concrete poured into a meshing. This here is unbelievable. This is just being excavated now, and some of this is actually petrified wood and mud rock. I'm going to zoom in on that top of that door there, and you won't believe what you're going to see now. What's this? I'm going to show you this image at the end, right, so it's really clear through the movie maker, and I'm going to zoom in on that area there. This is an ancient site. You can see they're excavating it now. It's in Egypt. This has not been put in recently. This is from ancient times. That lines up with that there.